Hamjambo, Niaje, Poa. Okay. So I would like to, this has been a very moving time for us to be together. So I'm very glad to meet the chief from Mathare and hear her story. Okay, she's a daughter of Mama Pima. So she has come very far, very far. And actually the assistant chief 10 years ago, he knew me 10 years ago when we started in Kibra. So I thank all the committee, especially Mama Ngilu. I mean that we're able to be here, and her husband started the church right next door, and so many other projects. Now, how do you eat an elephant? How do you eat an elephant? One chunk at a time, okay? So, this is a big, alcohol, drugs, and other addictions are a very big problem in Kibera, in Mathare, across all of Kenya, and certainly if you're far beyond the other African countries. And so, I'll tell you a short story. When we started Sapta, actually the office was just over there. The original office was just over there. There was a young lady, she had gotten pregnant during high school, secondary school, and her father kicked her out. So she came to live with her cousin here in Kibera, and the cousin was a Mama Pima. So she had to start sampling what her cousin was selling. So she ended up she finally gave birth to the baby, and then she became an alcoholic. And then she had a second child, and she told me this story. It was very, very moving. She says, "I do not know who the father of this child is." There were so many men. And even one time when she was drunk, she fell down and broke the child's arm. Now, she got sober through our program. She got sober through our program 10 years ago now. She said, "I have to move out of Kibera because my name is so bad." So she moved to another part. She took her 2 kids, and that's one story. I was very glad to hear Patrick's story. Now, I probably drank in my mother's womb. My mother was not an alcoholic, but she did drink. And then I eventually became an alcoholic myself. So my shosho, my nyanya, I never saw my grandmother sober. My grandmother and my grandfather on my mother's side, they had a bar. My grandfather had died just before I was born. My other grandfather was also an alcoholic. My brother became an alcoholic. I became an alcoholic. I had a cousin who was a doctor who became an alcoholic. I mean, we have alcoholism running throughout the whole tree. I started small, drinking little by little by little by little. Then I went off to the seminary. During the seminary, I was drinking. See, Catholics are allowed to drink, okay? Then when I became a priest. I was a priest for 30 years, Catholic priest for 30 years. And so anyways, about 30 years ago, I was using tap-taps, alcohol and tap-taps. And I had a psychotic kind of break. I was in line for a movie, and there was another one of me outside me. And this was all going up here. So I've had hallucinations, I've had psychotic breaks, because of my alcohol and drugs. So 30 years ago, I began through AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. That's how I got sober, okay? That's how, by the grace of God, for the last 30 years, I have not had a drink. So this is part of my passion, okay? This is part of my, it's the personal fujo, okay? I know the craziness.
I know the craziness of my own head. I know the craziness from my drinking and drugging. And I know the effect that it has had on everybody else. And so that this elephant that we're standing in front of today, taking a big chunk, you know, because we in Kibera, and I say we, I live over in Olympic, okay? I don't live someplace else. I live in Olympic. I've been there for 6 years. In fact, that was my old office, okay? That's the old, and I live with my, okay, I left the priesthood. I went from a father with a WF to a father with a small f. I married a lady. She was from the coast. She had been married before by her husband. He had died. She had 6 children by the first husband. So I have 6 children who are Kenyan, stepchildren. And I have 3 boys who are Tutsis, who survived the genocide. So I'm a single parent to 9 children and 15 grandchildren. One of my sons isn't sure whether they had 1 or 2 children. So I think I'm a typical, I have been called, you know, because of my kids, I have been in principal's offices. One of my kids, and it was a girl, had started a riot, you know. So, I mean, I know exactly, personally, I've dealt with my own alcoholism and drug addiction, and I've dealt with my addiction and own problems among my own children and grandchildren. Well, not grandchildren, which was still small. So, what we're dealing with is a brain disease, okay? Addiction is a brain disease. It changes our ubongo and our akili, you know? Literally at the cell level, it is a brain disease, okay? Now, when I started drinking and drugging, I didn't say, hey, Bill, your goal in life is to become an Levi. My goal in life at that time was, yeah, it's nice, it feels good, it's among our friends, but some of us go from drinking nicely to drinking and drugging not so nicely. You know, 10 or 15% of us who do this end up doing things that, you know, we don't think we should do. And so it really is a brain disease. And so we have to understand that so that we can deal with that, so that it needs a medical issue, it needs a biological issue, it needs a spiritual dimension, okay? So it's biological, it's psychological, and it is spiritual. We have to bring them all together if we're going to heal the people that we want to heal. Now, part of what we're doing is partly treatment, okay, for those of us like me, we have the Shidia Pombe, Shidia Dawa Kulevia, and then we want to make sure that the Vijana, the Watoto out there, that maybe many of them don't even start, okay? Don't even start. And so that part of that is what we call prevention. There's different levels of prevention programs. Some programs are for everybody. Information and kind of background sensitization is for everybody. Then there is those, we call those that are, okay, it's universal, then it's select those who are children who are vulnerable. Mama Pima's children, okay? Mama Pima's children, they are vulnerable. The children of alcoholics and drug addicts, they are vulnerable, okay? Because it's in the genes. 40% of addiction is in the genes. Then you have the other elements. Then you have the people, when we're looking at prevention, that they're beginning to drink and drug, especially our young people under 18 or 19 or 20, okay? So we have to bring out programs that are going to reach everybody, some people, and the people that are directly affected, okay? And so, there's no one program that fits everything. We have to do different things for different people, you know, so that, you know, and it has to be done by everybody. This is a coalition or a community of coalitions, okay? So as I said, to eat this elephant, we need many different people from many different backgrounds. So we need the educationists, we need the government people, we need our imams, and we need our people from our brothers and sisters from the, you know, from Islam. We need our Christian brothers and sisters. This has to be an effort of all of us because the problem is bigger than any one of us. And so that if we come together, as Patrick is giving you the process, first of all, you have to know the problem. What is the problem here? And I can tell you, I have a program in Mathari, I have another program in Kayole, and I have a problem in Githra. I work with 4,000 people who inject drugs. I have a program, I have 3 clinics. I have 80 outreach workers. They're working on that side of the city with drug addicts. So that their problem is not all our problem, right? We have our own issues that we have to deal with here, and as Patrick says, we have to look for the solutions within ourselves, and we have to come up with things that are both evidence-based. Not everything Magendo is evidence-based. Not every idea is something. So we have to study the problem. We have to find out the solution within ourselves, and then we have to train and mobilize the whole community. Okay, we start. Today was, this was a very good beginning. And remember, Kibra, you're the first. You're the first. You're the first. Of the coalitions to kick off. And they started 10 years ago at the coast. 10 years. So you're the first to kick off, and so that you can become a real example of what we can do as